Ashton Jeanty has a clearer path to being a Pro Bowl player than any other prospect in this entire class as a rookie.
Today I'm breaking down Ashton Jeanty, the Boise State running back and the most immediate impact player in this year's draft. He has the best contact balance I've seen in 20 plus years. He bounces off tackles like a ping pong ball every single week, and his ability to maintain balance through contact is simply incredible. It's a special trait. And when paired with his power, speed, vision, agility, hands, and IQ, and you have the full package, a blue chip prospect. But when it comes to this year's stacked class of runners, Ashton Jeanty is in a tier all by himself. He stands alone as the best running back prospect in years. He simply does things you need to see to believe. He has legit home run speed, insane burst. His lateral agility is next level. His low center of gravity allows him to drop his hips and move laterally without slowing down. It's simply next level. His foot speed, vision, patience, hands, footwork, ability to run through arm tackles, keep his balance, it's just all so special. He is simply one of the hardest players to tackle that I've ever watched on tape. His combination of size, 5'9", 215 pounds, with his low center of gravity, paired with his contact balance, power, and speed, make him one of the hardest players to bring down you will ever see, period. In 2024 alone, let's dig into some of the advanced statistics. He led the nation in almost every meaningful category, including yards per carry, yards after contact average, forced missed tackles, broken tackles, and explosive runs. He was also the second highest graded receiving back. Jeanty ran for 2,600 yards, the most since Barry Sanders, only two players to ever accomplish that feat. But he also broke the all-time record for yards after contact in college football history, 1,882 yards after contact. But just sit back and think about this stat. Jeanty had more yards after contact than any other running back in the nation had total rushing yards. You have to do a double take on that one. More yards after contact than anyone else had even total yards? That's insane. Taking a quick look at the 2024 rushing leaders, Jeanty had 2,601 yards. Second place was Cam Scatabo with 900 less at 1,711. Marion Hampton at 1,660 and Caleb Johnson at 1,537. Jeanty had more yards after contact than any other player had total rushing yards. This is single-handedly the most insane stat I have ever read in my life. Just absolutely mind-blowing. But having more yards after contact than anyone else has rushing yards is simply insane. But that's not all. Let's talk about broken tackles and forced missed tackles. His ability to not only break tackles, but make people miss. He had twice as many broken tackles as anyone in this class, breaking 106 total tackles in 2024. That's more broken tackles than Caleb Johnson, Marion Hampton, and Quinshon Judkins combined. But he's not just breaking tackles, he's also eluding them, forcing an insane 163 missed tackles in 2024, again leading the nation. And he had more than Caleb Johnson and Marion Hampton combined. But let's go for another mind-boggling stat. He averaged 5.2 yards after contact on average. There are running backs in this class who are going to get drafted who didn't even average 5 yards per carry. Jeanty was getting more yards after contact than most guys were even getting total per carry. Again, just another mind-blowing statistic. And that's one of the problems with Ashton Jeanty. It's that he's so incredible at breaking tackles that he makes every defender he runs into look like a bad tackler. But put on his tape against Oregon, one of the better defenses in the nation, and watch him make NFL prospects like Derek Harmon look like they can't tackle. It's just what Jeanty does. He's absolutely special, and his ability to maintain balance through contact and stay on his feet while keeping his legs churning, I think he's the best running back to come out since Saquon Barkley, and I have him rated slightly higher than Bijan Robinson or Jahmyr Gibbs. The biggest negatives I hear people talk about are the level of competition he faced, his fumbles, and his lack of involvement in the passing game in 2024. When you go watch his tape against Oregon and Penn State, you see the exact same player, an absolutely special prospect. When it comes to his work in the receiving game, is that he was the top receiving back in the nation in 2023. Boise State just simply didn't need to throw him the ball this year when he could get 8 yards a carry by handing it off to him. But I want to talk about the fumbles. 9 fumbles here. This is the one thing people hang on to. But anyone who mentions his fumbles, do they mention how many times he touched the ball? 800 plus touches, 9 fumbles, 800 plus touches. But to go with those 800 plus touches, he also had 500 plus broken or forced missed tackles. When you think about that, suddenly 9 fumbles doesn't seem so much. And to go with that, he has 5,631 total yards and 56 total touchdowns. All of those numbers dwarf the 9 fumbles. Another point I want to make about the fumbling is a lot of times he was breaking tackles and trying to make something out of nothing. He won't be asked to do as much in the NFL. He's going to have playmakers around him on offense. But last year, I criticized Caleb Williams because he had more fumbles than any QB prospect in the last 15 plus years. He had 30 plus fumbles in 3 years. Ashton Jeanty had 9, and he carried the ball hundreds more times than Caleb Williams. But people are still making a big deal out of that. I say, come on now, let's be real. I do have one more narrative here, though. Let me quickly address the people who said he was bad against Penn State. Please go watch that all 22 because he broke 18 tackles in that game. 18 tackles. And his tape shows a stud player. Yes, he did lose 1 fumble. Okay, cool. But he also put up 100 plus yards and broke 18 tackles with every single person in the stadium knowing he was getting the ball. He had 0 help on offense and was carrying his team against one of the best defenses in the nation. You can also go back and watch the Oregon game from early on in the season when he was fresh, and he put on an absolute clinic in that one. He almost carried his team to one of the biggest upsets of the year. He had 200 total yards and 3 TDs against Oregon, one of the best defenses in the country. But let's really dive deep here. Instead of reading Ashton Jeanty's strengths and weaknesses from scouts, I'm going to compare his advanced statistical numbers to the best running backs to come out in the draft over the last decade. If all of the other records and accomplishments Jeanty has pulled off in 2024 didn't get your attention, maybe this will. On screen, I have the highest performing running backs over the last decade and how they compare to Ashton Jeanty in the most advanced statistics for running backs. The first thing looking at is how they are as a runner. MTF percentage is the amount of missed tackles they forced. Basically, how elusive they are as a runner, their ability to make people miss. And then yak average is the amount of yards average they get after contact is initiated. So this takes into account both their ability to make people miss and break tackles when they can't. Jeanty has a higher elusive rating than Saquon Barkley, Jahmyr Gibbs, Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara, Nick Chubb, or Jonathan Taylor, or any other running back prospect to come out recently. But then you add his abilities to break tackles as well, as missed tackles forced measures his ability to simply make people miss. And then yak is his ability to keep going after making contact with a defender. And nobody touches Jeanty in this category. He is simply special and one of the best running backs I have ever seen. You can even go one step further here and include yards per route run to show how effective he was in the receiving department. And you'll see that Jeanty simply wasn't utilized to the level of CMC, Gibbs, or Kamara as a receiver, but he definitely held his own against Bijan, Saquon, and the rest. And on top of that, he was underutilized as a receiver, and he brings a lot more to the table in this area. One thing I saw on tape with Jeanty as far as his ability as a receiver is his balance translates in the receiving game. Not only can he adjust and catch these poorly thrown balls, but he has this nifty way of torquing his body in a way that he can continue his momentum after catching the football. It's honestly special. And anyone saying he can't catch or he won't be a weapon in the receiving game, they'll eat their words. I think the bottom line with Jeanty is this: you aren't just drafting a running back. You are drafting a weapon on offense, a Pro Bowl caliber talent from day one who could be one of the 3 or 4 best players in the NFL at his position instantly. So when it comes down to thinking about drafting another player at another position, would you rather have an average starter on the D line over the 3rd or 4th best running back in the league? That is what it comes down to. You won't find a bigger impact player in this draft than the Boise State running back. He has the clearest path of being a Pro Bowl player of any rookie in this year's draft. The only question about Ashton Jeanty and the Bears to me is, could he somehow fall to pick 10? I think it's very possible the Raiders take him at pick 6, the Patriots could take him at pick 4, and multiple teams ahead of us would at least consider him if he were on the board. But if he does fall to pick 10, I believe he would instantly add to the Bears' storied history of running backs. Jeanty would come in and carry this offense at times, and he would take pressure off of Caleb Williams. This year's draft lacks blue chip prospects, and if Ashton Jeanty is anything, it's a legit blue chip prospect. What hurts him the most is that the running back position is devalued, and this year's class of runners has so many really good options. It's hard to argue against anyone who thinks it's better to grab the best available running back in round 3. If we could somehow land Quinshon Judkins or Caleb Johnson at pick 72, that would be such an insane value. But the counterpoint to that argument is this: do you grab an average player at pick 10 over a legit difference maker, especially when we have 2 picks early in round 2? To me, it's pretty simple. I think at pick 10, we take the best player available. Period. Regardless of position, we grab the player who will make the biggest impact, and then you worry about the rest on day 2. The Chicago Bears did an incredible job this offseason of filling the holes on the roster and putting themselves in this position where they can take the best player available. I talked about it all offseason. We put ourselves in this position where we can draft a player like Ashton Jeanty or Mason Graham or Tyler Warren or Jalen Walker. Whatever happens, we're in a position to take the best player on our board. And Ashton Jeanty is simply one of the best players in this entire draft and one of the best running back prospects I have ever studied. He would make the Bears better instantly. So for people who want to win football games right now, Jeanty's the guy who's going to make more of an impact on winning football games this year than probably any other prospect in this draft. That makes it hard to argue that if he falls to pick 10, we should definitely draft him. You can go on all day about how running backs shouldn't go in the top 10, but when you look back at the running backs who have been taken in the top 10, there's only one bust out of that entire group, and it was Leonard Fournette. The rest of these guys have made significant impacts with their team, and Ashton Jeanty's going to do the same thing. I believe he's a difference maker and head and shoulders the best running back in this class. But it is an insanely deep group, and I would be happy landing someone later in the draft. What do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts. I put a ton of work into this one. Please hit that like button for me. Share this with your friends. If you missed my 2 previous scouting reports, I did Jalen Walker and Will Campbell the last 2 days, and I'll have another one coming tomorrow. Turn on those notifications so you don't miss out. Hit that like button for me, and until next time, bear down.
The Bears.